Hey everyone, welcome back. Today we're diving deep into a topic that you specifically requested: autism in women, and those hidden connections between food and how autistic women experience the world.
Mhm.
So we're going to be exploring a blog post from Cheap ABA. It's called "Autistic Women: Food Sensitivities and Intolerances," and it really got me thinking. And I can't wait to break it all down with you.
It's a great choice for a deep dive because it brings up a really important point right from the start, like what's hiding beneath the surface when we talk about autism in women. So often the focus is on outward behaviors, but this blog post encourages us to consider what might be going on internally, how that might be contributing to those
Yes,
behaviors.
it's like peeling back the layers, right? And one of the layers this blog post digs into is the whole world of food sensitivities and intolerances. It even makes a clear distinction between those and allergies,
Right.
which can be easy to mix up.
Definitely. Allergies involve a very specific immune system reaction to a protein in a food, whereas sensitivities and intolerances are more about your body struggling to digest certain components. It's less of an immediate, like, oh no, I can't breathe reaction, and more of a delayed, something's not right feeling.
Okay, that makes sense. The post mentions some common culprits like gluten, lactose, fructose,
Yeah.
and even histamine and salicylates, which I have to admit I'd never even heard of before reading this.
Oh, wow. Those are definitely ones that often fly under the radar. And think about it. If you're experiencing symptoms like bloating, brain fog, fatigue, or even mood swings, but you don't know the root cause is something you're eating, it can be incredibly frustrating.
It would be like trying to solve a puzzle with missing pieces. And for autistic women who might already be dealing with sensory sensitivities or social anxieties, that constant feeling of offness can be even more difficult to manage.
Absolutely. And that's where the blog post's discussion of the gut-brain axis gets really interesting. You see, there's this incredible two-way communication highway between your gut and your brain. When you have a food sensitivity that disrupts that communication, it can impact so many aspects of your experience.
Okay, so walk me through that. How could a disrupted gut-brain axis specifically affect an autistic woman?
Well, imagine you're already experiencing the world in a way that can feel overwhelming at times. Maybe you're hypersensitive to sounds or textures, or you find social interactions particularly draining. Now, on top of that, you're dealing with gut
That's incredibly insightful. I hadn't thought about it that way before. And the post also mentions inflammation, which I know is a big topic these days. How does that play into all of this?
Inflammation is essentially your body's natural defense mechanism against injury or irritation. But when it becomes chronic, due to things like ongoing food sensitivities, it can create a cascade of effects throughout the body, including the brain. And for autistic women, this chronic inflammation can actually amplify existing autistic traits.
So those sensory sensitivities we talked about, for example, might become even more intense.
Precisely. Or those social situations that were already a bit challenging could feel utterly overwhelming. It's like turning up the volume on everything, which can be incredibly draining, both physically and emotionally. And speaking of draining, the blog post also highlights the impact of food sensitivities on energy levels, right?
Yeah. It talks about how fatigue can be a major issue. And that makes sense because if your body's constantly battling inflammation and trying to digest things it's struggling with, it's going to take a toll.
It's like running a marathon every day, just to keep up with basic tasks. And for autistic women, who might already be putting a lot of energy into navigating social situations or managing sensory input, that chronic fatigue can make daily life feel like an uphill battle.
So knowing all of this, if someone listening is thinking, wait a minute, this sounds familiar, what are some steps they can take? What can they actually do about this?
That's where the empowering part comes in. The blog post lays out 4 key strategies, and I think they're a great starting point for anyone who suspects food sensitivities might be playing a role in their experience.
Okay, let's hear them. What's the first step?
The first strategy is what's called an elimination diet, where you systematically remove potential trigger foods from your diet for a period of time to see if your symptoms improve. It can be a bit of a detective game, but it's often the most effective way to pinpoint those culprit foods.
So it's about becoming your own food detective. That sounds kind of fun, actually. But I imagine it takes a lot of discipline. What's next on the list?
It does, but it can be so rewarding when you start to connect the dots between what you're eating and how you're feeling. And that's where the second strategy comes in, keeping a food diary. By carefully tracking what you eat and any symptoms you experience, you can start to identify patterns.
Ah, so it's like those nature documentaries where they meticulously track animal behavior.
Hmm.
But for your own body, I can see how that would be super helpful. But what if you're trying elimination diets and keeping a food diary, and you're still not getting clear answers?
That's when it's time to bring in the professionals. Seeking expert guidance is the third, and arguably most important strategy the blog post highlights. A registered dietitian, a nutritionist, or even a doctor who specializes in food sensitivities can provide personalized support based on your specific needs and medical history.
Right, because trying to figure this out on your own could be overwhelming. And there's always the risk of accidentally cutting out important nutrients if you're not careful.
Exactly. A qualified professional can help you design an elimination diet that's safe and effective, interpret your food diary findings, and make sure you're meeting all your nutritional needs. They can also run tests to rule out any underlying medical conditions that might be contributing to your symptoms.
That makes a lot of sense. So I've got detective work, documentation, and expert guidance. What's the fourth strategy?
The fourth strategy is all about exploration and finding what works for you. It's about embracing alternative options and getting creative in the kitchen. Let's say you discover you're sensitive to gluten these days. There's a whole world of delicious gluten-free bread, pasta, and other staples available.
It's not about restriction. It's about expanding your horizons and finding new favorites.
Or absolutely. Or maybe you find out dairy is a trigger. There are so many incredible plant-based milks, cheeses, and yogurts out there. It's about rediscovering the joy of food, but in a way that supports your well-being. And, this whole conversation reminds me of something I went through a few years back.
Oh, tell me. Do you have a food sensitivity aha moment?
I do. It actually involves something I never would have suspected. Eggs. I used to get these terrible headaches and brain fog that would hit in the afternoons. Tried all sorts of things, but nothing seemed to help. Then a friend suggested I try eliminating eggs for a few weeks, just to see. And guess what?
The headaches vanished.
Gone. It was like someone flipped a switch. I slowly reintroduced them, and sure enough, the headaches came back. It turns out I have a sensitivity to egg whites. It was such a relief to finally pinpoint the culprit and find ways to enjoy my favorite foods, but without the negative side effects.
That's an amazing story. And it really highlights how these hidden food sensitivities can be impacting us without us even realizing it. And, it's funny because in the blog post conclusion, it emphasizes that very point. You are not alone. You are understood. You are empowered.
I love that. It's such a powerful message because for so long, women, especially autistic women, have been told their experiences are all in their heads or they're being too sensitive with this blog post. And really, this whole conversation is about validating those experiences and saying, hey, there might be something more going on here. Let's explore it.
And that idea of not being alone, that sense of community
Yeah.
is so important. Knowing that other people are going through similar things can be incredibly validating and empowering.
It can be life-changing, truly. Because when you connect with others who understand your unique challenges and triumphs, you realize you're not broken or flawed. You're just wired differently. And there's strength and beauty in that difference.
This deep dive has been incredibly eye-opening for me. I mean,
Yeah.
if food can have such a profound impact on how autistic women experience the world, what other hidden connections might we be overlooking? It really makes you wonder, doesn't it? If something like food can have such a ripple effect, what other seemingly unrelated factors might be influencing autistic women's experiences? It's like we're just starting to understand the complexities of the autistic experience, especially for women.
Absolutely. And that's what makes this field of study so fascinating. There's still so much to learn and uncover. And every new discovery has the potential to improve the lives of autistic individuals.
I'm thinking about our listener right now. If they've resonated with anything we've talked about today, what would you say to them? What's that one key takeaway you hope they walk away with?
I'd say trust your instincts if you feel like something's off, whether it's related to food or any other aspect of your experience. Don't dismiss it. Do your research. Talk to professionals. Connect with others in the autistic community. You are your own best advocate. And there are resources and support systems out there waiting to help you thrive.
That's such great advice. It's about reclaiming your narrative and saying, my experience is valid, and I deserve to understand myself fully. And this blog post isn't just about food sensitivities. It's about empowering autistic women to take control of their health and well-being in all areas of their lives.
It's a powerful message of self-advocacy and self-discovery. It encourages autistic women to listen to their bodies, seek out information, and connect with others who understand their journey. It's about shifting from a place of feeling misunderstood to a place of feeling empowered.
And I think that's a perfect note to end on. To our listener out there, thank you for joining us on this deep dive into the world of autism in women and food sensitivities. We hope this conversation has sparked your curiosity, validated your experiences, and given you some tools and resources to move forward on your own journey of self-discovery.
Remember, knowledge is power and connection is key. Keep asking questions, keep seeking support, and keep celebrating the amazing neurodiverse individuals that you are without accident.
We'll be back soon with another deep dive into a topic you're passionate about. Until then, stay curious, stay informed, and keep those brains buzzing.